The Beatles were prolific in the 8 years that Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, John Lennon, and George Harrison were together as a band. Between 1962 and 1970, they released 12 studio albums in the UK, including 6 in their first 3 years. The early years were stressful for the Beatles, but once they stopped from touring in 1966, they could devote more time to making records in the studio. As a result of their meteoric rise to fame, record company Parlophone wasted no time putting out a flood of new songs. So, not every song that Paul and John created was something they were proud of. Some of them, Paul says, became filler on albums since they were just for work. "I don't remember much about that one," he remarked, when asked about the 1963 song Hold Me Tight by the band. "You don't remember anything about certain tunes because they were just work music. That's quite a few." And he called it a failed attempt at a single, which then became an acceptable album filler in his descriptions. Although Paul does not particularly recall that particular song from 1963, it is far from the only one. The Beatles' second album, With the Beatles, contained the tender love ballad Little Child, which was similar to Hold Me Tight. Paul revealed that Elton Hayes' Whistle My Love served as inspiration for the words, "I'm so sad and lonely," which depict the narrator pleading with an unknown person to dance with them and take a risk on them. Written to cover a gap in his discography, Paul subsequently stated that he didn't think Little Child was his best work. "Little Child was a work job," he reflected on the experience. "You simply followed the lead of some uplifting music. Ringo, come on, 2 hours, song for the album," was the theme of a few additional tracks. John had a similar impression. "Little Child was another effort of Paul and me to write a song for somebody," he claimed in an interview from 1980. Ringo was presumably the one. Released in November 1963 on the With the Beatles album, the song was recorded over 3 separate sessions in September and October 1963. Even if John and Paul didn't care much for it, reviewers have been rather kind. "It might have been one of the less sophisticated and impressive tracks on the record, but it was still pretty good," commented AllMusic reviewer Richie Unterberger. According to him, "Little Child might not be a work of genius, but it's sheer rock and roll fun."